You don't need motivation, you need purpose. They tell you to get motivated. To light a fire under your goals. To find some morning routine or viral quote to spark your ambition. But let me tell you something they won't: motivation is a lie. It's fleeting. It's fragile. It disappears the moment the wind changes or the day gets hard. It's like trying to fuel a rocket with a sparkler. What you need is something deeper. Something unshakable. Not motivation, purpose. Purpose doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't check the weather or the mood or the market. It doesn't sleep, doesn't doubt, and doesn't wait for approval. Purpose burns through your chest like fire in your bones. It wakes you up in the morning before the alarm. It haunts your dreams. It drives your body past exhaustion, and your mind past every excuse. Because purpose is not a mood, it's a mission. The men and women who changed the world weren't motivated. They were possessed. Possessed by vision. By clarity. By an obsession so deep they would rather die pursuing it than live without it. Thomas Edison didn't need motivation to test 10,000 times. Motivation would have quit after 5. Henry Ford didn't need a podcast to keep going when the banks laughed in his face. He had something louder than fear, a vision he could see before it existed. Walt Disney wasn't inspired every day. But he kept building. Brick by brick. Dream by dream. He died before he even saw the gates of Walt Disney World open. But he didn't build for himself. He built for an idea that outlived his heartbeat. That's purpose. You don't need to feel like it. You need to decide who you are. You need to burn the escape routes and commit like your life depends on it. Because it does. We've created a culture that's obsessed with getting motivated. But if you keep needing to get motivated, then what you're doing isn't aligned with your deepest calling. Purpose doesn't ask to be entertained. Purpose doesn't scroll. Purpose builds. And here's the truth, you already feel it, don't you? That whisper inside your soul when everything else goes quiet. That ache when you see someone living the life you were meant to lead. That frustration boiling in your blood when you keep ignoring your potential. To please people who don't even know who they are. That's not laziness. That's misalignment. That's your purpose screaming beneath the surface, begging you to listen. And once you hear it, truly hear it, everything else falls away. Because purpose doesn't just demand your focus, it commands it. It doesn't compete with distractions. It erases them. Suddenly you stop chasing everything, because you've finally found the one thing worth chasing. You stop doubting your worth, because you've become too busy creating it. You stop needing approval, because your soul has already approved the mission. You stop fearing failure, because purpose doesn't care how many times you fall. Only that you rise one more. And when you tap into that, really tap in, your whole life begins to realign. Not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. Because when purpose leads, discipline follows. And when discipline follows, results show up. Not overnight, but undeniably. And when the storms come, and they will, you'll find yourself walking through the fire without flinching. Not because it doesn't burn, but because your dream burns hotter. Motivation is about feeling. Purpose is about becoming. The people who changed history didn't wait for the right time. They made time irrelevant. They didn't wait for conditions to be perfect. They moved through chaos with clarity. They didn't care who doubted them. Because the voice inside them spoke louder than the noise around them. That's what you need. Not more caffeine. Not another quote. Not another 10 Steps to Success video. You need to look in the mirror and ask yourself one question: why am I here? Not on this platform. Not in this job. On this earth. What breaks your heart? What pisses you off? What makes your blood boil and your spirit rise? Because there, in that collision of pain and vision, is where your purpose is hiding. And the moment you stop running from it, You'll start becoming the version of yourself you were born to be. You see, purpose doesn't come wrapped in comfort. It's not handed to you with a pretty bow and a perfect plan. It arrives disguised, as pain, as failure, as loss, as longing. It speaks not in convenience, but in conviction. And most people miss it, because they're too busy running from the very thing that could make them whole. They want greatness, but reject the pressure that forges it. They want legacy, but flinch at the labor it demands. They want freedom, but refuse the fire it takes to earn it. But purpose asks for everything. It demands your fear. It demands your doubt. It demands your comfort, your distractions, your excuses. And in return, it gives you something no one else can, unstoppable clarity. The kind of clarity that makes sleepless nights feel sacred. The kind that makes sacrifice feel sweet. The kind that doesn't ask, what if I fail? It asks, what if I never try? Abraham Lincoln wasn't motivated to fail in 8 elections, lose 2 businesses, and suffer a nervous breakdown before becoming the President of the United States. He was called. Called by a purpose that wouldn't die. A dream that refused to stay buried. And that's what separates the driven from the distracted. The world is full of people waiting. Waiting for the right feeling. Waiting for the perfect moment. Waiting for the storm to pass. But the ones who rise, they don't wait. They walk into the storm. Because purpose is not found in the absence of resistance. It's forged inside it. You don't get stronger without weight. You don't grow without pressure. You don't elevate without struggle. Look at nature. The seed must crack open in the dark for the tree to rise. The diamond must endure pressure no living being could survive. The eagle must throw its young from the nest so they can learn to fly, not out of cruelty, but out of truth. You were not born to crawl in comfort. You were born to fly through resistance. But the modern world has lied to you. It sold you ease. Sold you comfort, likes, distraction, safety, conformity. As if those things ever created greatness. You weren't made to chase happiness. You were made to chase meaning. And happiness, true happiness, the kind that endures, is simply the side effect of living in alignment with purpose. When you know why you're here, everything changes. Your mornings stop being negotiable. Your habits stop being random. Your goals stop being optional. You stop comparing your life to others. Because your path isn't theirs, and it never was. You stop needing validation. Because your work is the validation. You stop fearing judgment. Because your soul is no longer for sale. That's the power of purpose. It reorders your life. It filters your priorities. It sharpens your mind, hardens your will, and softens your heart. Because purpose doesn't just build warriors. It builds servants. And that's the paradox. The strongest among us are not the ones who take. They are the ones who serve something greater. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't march because it was trending. He marched because he could not look away. Because injustice offended his soul. Because his purpose was louder than the threats. Louder than the hate. Louder than the fear. That's what real purpose sounds like. Not noise. Not hype. But a quiet, unshakable yes that echoes from your bones. Even when the world shouts no. So if you've been drifting, if you've been waking up each day with a weight on your chest. And no clear reason why. You're not broken. You're just disconnected. Disconnected from the truth that once lit your eyes on fire. Disconnected from the reason you were given breath. Disconnected from that child you once were, who dared to believe they were here for something more. And let me remind you, you still are. But purpose doesn't come looking for you. You must go looking for it, and when you find it, you hold on. With blood. With sweat. With silence. With sacrifice. Because the world doesn't need more motivated people. It needs people on a mission. People who've made peace with the pain. People who have chosen responsibility over convenience. People who know why they rise every single morning, even when it would be easier not to. You don't need to be inspired. You need to be ignited. Lit up from the inside. By a cause, a truth, a future that demands your name be written into its story.